Hello, today we find ourselves in World War I, day number 6. What we've learned about so far is what it was like to be on the home front in America. We've learned about the causes of World War I. We've talked about the weapons and the technology and a variety of other things. Let's just review real quick the causes of World War I. So remember, we learned a word to help us remember the causes, the word mania. The M stands for militarism. Militarism is when a country puts a lot of effort and money into building up their army and their weaponry. Okay, the first A in mania is for alliances, and we remember that alliances are kind of like when two countries get together and say, I've got your back, you've got my back, so if I go into war, you'll have to support me. One of those kind of things, making agreements to basically have each other's back. The N is for nationalism. That is a great pride for one's country to the point where you feel that you would not lose a war if you were fighting. The I stands for imperialism, and imperialism is, well, a good example of that is where the British had several colonies on other continents that they were in control of, actually 5 other continents. And there were other countries trying to do this too, but the British were the most successful. They had a very successful navy, and I think that was part of it. And then the last A is for assassination, and this is kind of the thing that really got things going. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand. Remember, he was the Archduke, and he was going to come into power as emperor and change things, and there were groups of people that did not like that, so they assassinated him. So again, those were the causes. We're actually going to start looking at the effects in the next few days because the war is going to be over in our lessons as of today. So we're going to read today about the end of the war, and we'll also talk about when America gets involved in the fighting, because remember, America had not been involved in the fighting as we had been still in school. And so let's read about that. I want you to look at causes and effects when we're done. So you're going to fill in a chart that either I give you the cause or the effect, and you find the other one. So be listening carefully to the different facts that are important in the reading. Here we go. The end of the war. Although America did not declare war on Germany until 1917, she had been involved in the war from the beginning, supplying the Allies with weapons and supplies. On May 2, 1915, the British passenger liner Lusitania was sunk by a torpedo from a German submarine. 1,195 passengers, including 128 Americans, lost their lives. Americans were outraged and put pressure on the government to enter the war. Woodrow Wilson, who's pictured on the left, campaigned for a peaceful end to the war. He appealed to both sides to try to settle the war by diplomatic means, but was unsuccessful. In February of 1917, the Germans announced an unrestricted submarine warfare campaign. They had planned to sink any ship that approached Britain, whether it was a military ship, a supply ship, or a passenger ship. On April 3rd of 1917, Wilson made a speech declaring that America would enter the war and restore peace to Europe. The United States declared war on Germany on April 6, 1917. American troops joined the French and British in the summer of 1918. They were fresh and not war-weary and were invaluable in defeating the Germans. The Allied victory in November of 1918 was not solely due to American involvement. Rapid advancements in weapon technology, helped by American funding, meant that by 1918 tanks and planes were commonplace. The German commander Erich Ludendorff, who's pictured on the left, was a brilliant military commander and had won decisive victories over Russia in 1917 that led to the Russian withdrawal from the war. In 1918, he announced that if Germany was to win the war, then the Allies had to be defeated on the Western Front before the arrival of American troops. Although his offensive was initially successful, the Allies had ground and eventually pushed the Germans back. Had held their ground. Sorry. By 1918, there were strikes and demonstrations in Berlin and other cities protesting about the effects of the war on the population. The British naval blockade of German ports meant that thousands of people were starving. Socialists were waiting for the chance to seize Germany as they had in Russia. In October of 1918, Ludendorff resigned and the German Navy mutinied. The end was near. Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated on November 9, 1918. On November 11th, the leaders of both sides held a meeting in Ferdinand Foch railway carriage headquarters at Compiègne. The armistice was signed at 6 a.m. and came into force 5 hours later. So your job today is going to be filling in the missing blanks in this cause and effect chart. So actually, let's do the first one together and then you'll have the answer. It says 1,195 civilian passengers were killed on the Lusitania, a British passenger ship, in May of 1915. 128 of those passengers were Americans. And you remember reading about that. That's where Americans became very angry and they wanted to enter the war. So the effect would be that Americans were angry and asked the government to enter the war. Now you just need to do the other ones that are left. If you have any trouble finding the answer, go back into the reading, please. And if you struggle with something else, please let me know. You can reach me by email today. Have a great day.